Have you ever noticed how success seems to cluster in certain places? Why do certain cities, schools, or even small neighborhoods seem to produce far more successful people than others? Why does it feel like opportunity has an address? You might think it's all about personal effort, the grind, the discipline, the mindset. And yes, those things matter. But here's the hidden truth. The soil you're planted in can matter just as much as the seed itself. Welcome to The Long Game. I'm Nathan, and I'm glad you're here. Before we begin, I just want to say thank you. Truly. I read every single comment you leave, every word of support, every question, every thought you share. I see it. Even if I don't always get to reply. Between work, creative projects, and raising a little one who keeps me on my toes, please know it means a lot. You're the reason this show keeps growing. You remind me that we're not just talking about success, we're building endurance together. Now, let's get into today's idea, the geography of success. It's not just about maps and borders. It's about how place, both physical and psychological, shapes what we believe is possible. Think about Silicon Valley. It didn't invent innovation. People everywhere are creative, but it concentrated it. It created an ecosystem where ideas could breathe. You can walk into a random cafe and overhear conversations about venture capital, product launches, and AI prototypes. You can meet someone at a shared desk, and 3 months later, you're co-founders pitching to investors. That's not coincidence. That's the geography of success in action. Environments multiply energy. They set the default of what's normal. In some places, dreaming big is strange. In others, it's expected. In some homes, talking about goals sounds like arrogance. In others, it's how dinner conversations go. And here's the powerful thing. The same person, with the same brain, the same drive, the same talents, can thrive in one place and stagnate in another, because the environment amplifies or muffles potential. Let's go deeper. Imagine two musicians, equally skilled. One grows up in a city with open mics, a local scene, and mentors. The other lives where music is seen as a hobby, not a path. 10 years later, they look like they came from different worlds, but really, they came from different contexts. That's what geography means in this sense, the invisible conditions that either nurture or numb you. The same applies to careers, to fitness, to relationships, to money. It's easier to eat healthy when everyone around you values wellness. It's easier to save when your peers talk about long-term investing, not weekend spending. It's easier to stay disciplined when people you respect practice discipline too. Now, let's bring this closer to your own life. What's the climate you live in? Not the weather, but the emotional one. What conversations dominate your environment? Do they revolve around excuses or around action? Do they drain you or lift you? When you share your dreams, do people question them or refine them with you? This matters more than we think, because environment is the great silent teacher. It trains us through osmosis. It tells us what's rewarded, what's punished, what's possible. Even your digital geography matters. Your social feeds, your YouTube recommendations, the podcasts you listen to, they all create a kind of mental terrain you walk through each day. If that terrain is full of fear, anger, and comparison, Your thoughts adapt to survive in that environment. You start thinking in reaction instead of creation. But if your mental geography is full of curiosity, learning, and long-term thinking, you start compounding growth without even noticing it. That's how environment silently shapes outcomes. You see, success isn't just about pushing harder. It's also about positioning, standing where the wind of opportunity blows strongest. That's why so many people move, not just across countries, but across communities. They seek new environments that match who they're trying to become. It's the same reason a seed can't flourish in every soil. Some soil drains too quickly, some holds too much water. Success, like a tree, depends not only on what's inside the seed, but on whether the ground supports its growth. So, if you feel stuck, maybe it's not a lack of drive. Maybe it's the geography of your life, the ecosystem around you. And maybe the first move isn't to work harder, but to find better soil. In the next part, we'll explore exactly that: how to shape your environment so that it works for you, not against you. Because success may begin with you, but it compounds through where you choose to grow. Stay with me. We'll continue this journey in part 2. If the first part of this episode opened your eyes to how much your environment shapes you, this next part is about taking that realization and turning it into power. Because while we can't always choose where we start, we can choose where we grow. Let's begin with something simple, yet profound. The idea that environment isn't destiny, it's influence. And influence can be managed, shaped, and redesigned. You might have been born in a small town that values conformity more than creativity. You might be surrounded by people who think ambition is arrogance. But even then, you can create your own microclimate of growth. You can build your own Silicon Valley in your mind by curating what you see, who you listen to, and what conversations you entertain. Success geography doesn't start with a map. It starts with awareness. The moment you realize that you are absorbing your surroundings, you begin to reclaim your agency. Because most people don't even notice. They think their mood, their beliefs, their limits are just who they are, when in reality, those are reflections of the environments that shaped them. Imagine a child growing up in a home where failure is punished. That child learns that mistakes are dangerous. They'll grow cautious, timid, overly self-critical. But another child growing up in a home where failure is seen as feedback will try again and again until learning becomes natural. Same potential, different environment, vastly different outcome. Now imagine that child as an adult. One learns to avoid risk. The other learns to take smart ones. That's how geography compounds across a lifetime. But here's the good news. We're not trees. We can move. We can replant. And sometimes, that's exactly what success requires. Changing environments doesn't always mean relocating physically. It can mean changing your social circle, your media diet, your daily routes. It can mean finding one friend who believes in your dreams instead of 10 who mock them. It can mean working from a new space that makes you feel creative again. Because environment isn't just external, it's emotional. It's the energy you allow in your space. It's how your surroundings make you feel about yourself. Let's look at an example. There's a story about a young artist in Japan named Hayao, who was frustrated by how repetitive and soulless the animation industry around him had become. So he and a few friends created their own environment, Studio Ghibli. They didn't wait for the world to give them permission. They built a new world to work in. And that little creative environment ended up redefining global storytelling. That's the power of shaping geography rather than being shaped by it. It's like this. If your surroundings are constantly pulling your attention away from your goals, you can rearrange your geography. You can place the tools of focus within reach. A book on your desk, a journal beside your bed, a reminder on your wall. You can remove friction between you and your desired behavior. Every habit thrives in the right environment. That's why athletes train in Olympic centers, why monks meditate in temples, why entrepreneurs gather in co-working hubs. They're not escaping the world. They're engineering their context. Even on a smaller scale, your microenvironment can become your edge. One writer might have a cluttered room full of distractions. Another might design a minimal workspace with one open notebook and a cup of coffee. Same skill, different environment, different results. And it's not just about productivity. Your emotional geography matters just as much. If your relationships constantly pull you toward negativity, you start to normalize it. You adapt to survive in that ecosystem, and before long, you forget what optimism feels like. So ask yourself, what are you adapting to? Are you adapting to peace or chaos? To growth or stagnation? To people who challenge you or people who drain you? There's a line I love. If you hang out with 5 ambitious people, you'll become the 6th. It's cliché because it's true. We mirror what we're surrounded by. And if your geography doesn't mirror your values, you'll spend your life battling your own environment instead of being supported by it. Now, I know this isn't easy. It can be painful to outgrow the geography that raised you. It can mean distancing yourself from old habits, old routines, even old friendships. But that's the price of evolution. Not to abandon your past, but to give your future a chance to breathe. You see, every version of yourself lives in a different environment. The disciplined version of you doesn't exist in the same space as the distracted one. The confident version doesn't grow in the same crowd as the insecure one. Each level of growth demands a different geography. So here's a question worth sitting with. What kind of environment would the next version of you need to thrive? Not just physically, but emotionally, socially, digitally. What would that space look like? Who would be in it? What energy would it carry? That vision, that imagined environment, is your new North Star. You don't have to move across the world to find it. You can begin crafting it right where you are. One small change at a time. Replace noise with silence. Replace distraction with design. Replace toxic company with quiet solitude, at least until the right people come. That's the beginning of changing your geography. In the next part, we'll talk about how to sustain that new environment, how to build a geography that not only nurtures success, but keeps evolving as you evolve. Because success isn't static, and neither is the landscape it lives in. Stay tuned. The long game continues.
In the last part, we talked about reshaping your environment, about moving from being passively influenced to becoming an architect of your own geography. But let's take it even further, because the real long game isn't just about finding a place that nurtures your growth, it's about sustaining it, protecting that fertile soil from erosion, and allowing it to evolve as you evolve. You see, growth attracts gravity. The more you rise, the more forces pull at you. Distractions, comparisons, responsibilities, old habits that want to reclaim territory. And if you're not careful, the same environment that once helped you grow can quietly begin to hold you back. Think about how startups lose agility once they become large corporations, or how a creative person can lose their spark once they make it. Why? Because they stop refreshing their environment. They build walls instead of gardens. They stop letting new air in. The geography of success, then, isn't a static place. It's a living ecosystem. It must keep breathing, adapting, renewing itself to keep you alive within it. Let's make that concrete. Imagine your environment as a garden. At first, you plant seeds, habits, ideas, values. Then you protect them from weeds, from noise, from bad weather. You water them through learning, through reflection, through people who remind you of who you want to become. But over time, that garden changes. Some plants grow too large and block the sunlight. Some roots become tangled. What worked once can start to suffocate what's next. That's why you need to prune, to evolve your environment, to let go of things, even good things, that no longer fit who you're becoming. This pruning applies to everything: the content you consume, the people you spend time with, the routines you've built, the tools you use, the goals you chase. Every few years, you must audit your geography. Ask yourself, is this environment still growing me or just maintaining me? Do I feel challenged or merely comfortable? Am I surrounded by mirrors or by windows? Mirrors reflect who you already are. Windows show you who you could become. And you need both, but too many mirrors and you'll get stuck admiring your reflection instead of expanding your view. This is why many high performers relocate, not just geographically, but mentally. They seek new teams, new teachers, new challenges, not because they're restless, but because they know that stagnation begins in familiar air. But you don't have to burn down your life to do this. You can refresh your environment with small, deliberate changes. For example, if your digital world has become cluttered with negativity, unfollow 5 accounts that drain you. If your home feels heavy, rearrange your workspace, bring light in, add something that inspires you. If your social circle keeps you repeating old stories, go to an event or class where no one knows your past. Sometimes a single fresh interaction changes your entire sense of possibility. Because success is not just built, it's maintained through environmental hygiene. There's a study from Harvard that followed people for over 80 years, tracking what led to happiness and longevity. The conclusion wasn't money, intelligence, or fame. It was the quality of relationships, the environment of emotional safety, trust, and connection. That's geography too. Social geography, the map of who your heart travels with. So let's talk about that emotional terrain. It's easy to overlook, but emotional geography may be the most powerful of all. Because the human mind doesn't thrive in isolation. It needs resonance. It needs people who remind you that growth is not weird, that kindness isn't weakness, that long-term thinking isn't naive. If your environment rewards those things, they multiply. If it mocks them, they shrink. That's why it's not selfish to curate your space. It's strategic. You're protecting the atmosphere your dreams breathe in. Sometimes that means distance. Sometimes it means silence. Sometimes it means saying no to things that once made you feel included, but now make you feel smaller. And over time, something powerful happens. You stop being just a product of your environment. You start becoming a source of environment. You create gravity. People begin to grow simply by being around you. That's the final stage of the geography of success, when your presence itself becomes a climate where others thrive, where your discipline inspires discipline, where your calm spreads calm, where your curiosity sparks curiosity. Because success that doesn't shape the world around you isn't sustainable. It's lonely. The true long game is not about escaping bad environments, it's about creating good ones and then helping others do the same. Think of every great leader, teacher, or creator you admire. They didn't just succeed personally, they built ecosystems of success. They made the ground fertile for others. They built schools, companies, movements, or simply households where growth became culture. That's legacy, the ultimate geography. Because long after you're gone, the environment you created continues to compound. So, as you reflect on your own path, remember, your geography of success begins with awareness, evolves through design, and matures through stewardship. You begin by seeking fertile soil. You grow by tending your own garden. And eventually, you become the gardener for others. That's how the long game unfolds, quietly, patiently, beautifully, one environment at a time. Thank you for listening today. I'm Nathan, and this is The Long Game. And if you've been walking this path with me, growing with me, and sharing your thoughts, know that I see you, I appreciate you, and I'm honored to be part of your journey. Keep building the environments that make you stronger, because your surroundings might shape your success, but your awareness of them shapes your destiny.